Welcome to another Commission Conversations. I am John Lux. I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida. Today we're with Sheena Fowler from the Orlando Film Commission. Welcome, Sheena.
Thank you for having me.
So we're still in the middle of the pandemic and everything that comes along with that. Talk a little bit about your office and your area in light of the current situation.
Yeah, it's been an interesting time to understand how to continue to keep production moving forward, but under the critical lens of safety. And where I like to start with this is I'm extraordinarily proud of our production community, because if there's any industry that can rally to understand new procedures and fall into line, it's the production industry. They're the best equipped to do this. And so I'm proud to see the plans that have been coming in place. The Film Florida guidelines have been essential to helping all of the jurisdictions that we work with understand what are some best practices, how do we evaluate this separate from what we're looking at for traditional brick and mortar offices. So each production is going to be different, and that's how we have to take it in the time being. So we're working with people on a one-on-one basis to help them understand what opportunities are there, how do they continue to spread out the production so we can keep social distancing in place, how do we keep practices to limit the number of people concentrated in one area. So with that, we are open, we are accepting permits. I've got some in play right now, which is exciting and terrifying all at the same time, to be taking those steps to the next level and out of just theorizing and conversation. So I'm excited to see how the process unfolds, because it is a truly, thoroughly collaborative process between our office, the local jurisdiction, and the production company that's doing it. So we're working hand in hand.
Now, you mentioned some of the local jurisdictions, and what's really interesting about the Orlando Film Commission is, while some local film commissions handle a city or a county, you handle multiple counties. So talk a little bit about that, having nothing to do with the pandemic, just in general, and, the pros, the cons, what that really means for your office.
It's an interesting system. We've been doing this now for over 30 years in the Orlando region. We cover Orange, Seminole, Osceola counties, and every jurisdiction within that, including the city of Orlando and many of the smaller towns. We also work very closely with Lake County. And then I think it's natural to partner with the territories and film commissioners of the surrounding counties. Polk County we work very closely with, and Brevard and Volusia. So it's interesting in the fact that we have been able and I've been doing this for 10 years now, we have been able to maintain, for the most part, one permit application to cover multiple counties. And we've been able to secure ordinance revisions that are fairly consistent, for the most part, across all of those county lines, which makes it easier on the production company, and it's on my office to maintain all of those details of what are the little details that make the difference between, let's say, a City of Orlando permit and an unincorporated Orange County permit. That's on my office to maintain that details. We don't want the production company to ever have to worry about which county line they're on. We want them to focus on the production, focus on the crew, make sure they're taking care of that, and we partner with them to make sure we've got their back to protect the production and both the community in which they're filming in.
So obviously Orange County includes Disney and Universal and some of the major icons of Central Florida. But I like to ask each of the film commissioners to talk a little bit about some of the off the beaten path locations. What are some of your favorites that you might not see all the time, but your eyes light up when somebody says, hey, I'm looking for this or looking for that?
One of the most exciting things that I personally never pinned Orlando for was jungles. And so when I first started with the film office, and I was told that was one of our more popular locations at the time, I really didn't buy it. I didn't think that was possible in Orlando. I'm not from Orlando. I moved here. So it took me some time to really wrap my head around that. Wow, we have some really extraordinary, lush, dense Florida natural landscape that doubles perfect for jungles located all over the world. And over the past 10 years, we've been able to film those. I mean, one of the more memorable scouting projects I worked on was with the Spielberg series Terra Nova. And it came down, it was Orlando versus New Zealand, which is an interesting conversation to have, that we can actually compete at that level, because perspective wise, you think they're very different locations. But that's what's beautiful about the Orlando region, is we don't have a defined look. We don't have one singular look that you're going to get when you come here. The architecture is very diverse. The landscape is very diverse. We're different from traditional Florida looks. We don't have a concentration of palm trees in our region, where we have much more focus on oak trees and lush jungle tropical areas. So it's an interesting process with different productions to help find it. But one of my most exciting favorite things to do is to be challenged. And somebody tells me, well, there's no way you're ever going to find this. Just watch. We will figure it out.
A personal story about the jungle thing is that I moved to Florida in 1998. And about a year after, the company I was working with started on Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. And with Gina Lee Nolan, we did 2 seasons. It was a syndicated show from Columbia TriStar Television. And the entire series was nothing but jungles. And so it was actually quite eye-opening for me,
right?
You know, as a brand new Floridian to learn that. So in the last 18 months or so, 2 of the biggest projects that have been in Florida have been in your jurisdiction, in David Makes Man and The Right Stuff. Talk a little bit about each of those projects and what they've meant to Central Florida.
My heart skips a beat a little bit when we talk about these projects. As I mentioned before, having been here 10 years, I started with the Film Commission before incentives were a game. I followed through that process where we had it, where we didn't have it, the ups, the downs, and the long road to pursuing episodic television, which is something that is very near and dear to the heart of production professionals in the Central Florida area. It's a specialty of ours. It's what we're built for. It produces long-term employment. That's exactly what we're looking for. It's that economic impact that we want out of these productions. And partnering with local producer Wayne Morris and his passion for the Orlando community was exceptional, because he really dedicated himself to fighting for this community. And hand in hand, and the State Film Commission was extraordinary to really just continue to back up this pathway to understanding how would it work? How could we produce a really high quality episodic series in a state that doesn't have an incentive? And all the time we've continued to share the message that production really takes place when you have a collaborative community and an extraordinary crew base and access to talent. And that's something that the Orlando region has excelled in always. And so we just needed somebody to take a chance with us to understand what we have to offer, to understand the enthusiasm that the crew and the talent will bring to the production, and that magic will take over. And we can compete with any production community all over the world. I've heard it time and time again, when people who've never worked with our Orlando crews come in for the first time, they are blown away at the talent that exists. And so these 2 projects were a dream come true to really get to showcase that. And we weren't just talking the talk anymore, we were walking the walk. And between Oprah Winfrey Network and now The Right Stuff going to Disney Plus, I cannot wait for people to see these series. And if you haven't watched David Makes Man, you are missing out. It will tear at your heartstrings. It doesn't matter what your background is or how you grew up. This is a story that relates to anyone growing up. And I encourage you to watch it, because it will change your perspective on life. And it's beautiful. And The Right Stuff was just an extraordinary project that we can't wait to see. The trailer that just dropped just blew our minds away. And especially in the context of looking at what we're doing in Central Florida with the SpaceX launch that got scrubbed, and now we're going to see it in the next few weeks. this is an extraordinary time for our community, and I'm really proud that we were able to tell that Florida story with Florida Cruise, filmed in Florida. That's a big deal.
Sheena, thanks for taking time with us this morning and teaching people more about the Orlando Film Commission.
Thank you so much. We are happy to help, happy to be challenged, and exciting to tackle any project together.